It's strange how silence can feel loud. In the dark, hollow halls of Saint Dymphna Asylum, even your own heartbeat sounds like someone else's footsteps. My friends and I weren't the type to scare easily. We'd explored abandoned hospitals, tunnels, and even an old church once rumored to be cursed. But something about Saint Dymphna was different the moment we stepped through its rusted doors. The air was heavy, damp, and sour, like rot and disinfectant mixed together. The place had been closed for almost 40 years. Nature had started reclaiming it. Vines crawled through shattered windows, paint peeled like sunburned skin, and water dripped rhythmically somewhere deep in the halls. My friend Lucas led the way with a flashlight, its beam slicing through the dark like a scalpel. I followed close behind, trying to ignore how the walls seemed to close in around us. We weren't there for cheap thrills. We were filming for a YouTube urban exploration channel. The Lost Files, we called it. Our goal was simple: explore the infamous asylum, get some eerie shots, and leave before midnight. But that plan dissolved the moment we found the records room. It was buried behind two collapsed hallways, a small office lined with rusting file cabinets and a single desk covered in dust. The smell of mold was so strong it burned my throat. On the desk lay a thick, leather-bound ledger, its cover cracked, but the gold-embossed title still visible: Patient Admissions, 1947-1982. Lucas brushed the dust away and opened it. The pages were yellowed, but the ink looked surprisingly fresh. Hundreds of names filled the columns, each neatly written with patient numbers, dates, and conditions. But at the very end, on the last page, was something impossible. My name, then Lucas's, then Erica's. Each of us listed as admitted 10/09/25. We froze. No one said a word. Erica laughed nervously, saying maybe someone had faked it before us. But there were no footprints in the dust, no signs of anyone else. The entries looked too new, too clean. That's when we heard it. Footsteps, not ours. Slow, deliberate, dragging along the linoleum floor from somewhere down the hall. The sound echoed through the asylum like it had miles to travel. Lucas swung his light toward the door, but the beam flickered and went out, leaving us in suffocating darkness. Erica whispered that it was probably just an animal, but even she didn't believe it. The footsteps grew louder, closer, and I swear I could hear the faint wheeze of breathing between each step. Lucas finally got the flashlight working again, and that's when we saw the wheelchair. It sat in the middle of the hallway, facing us. Its wheels were crusted with rust, but the floor beneath it looked freshly scuffed, like someone had just pushed it there. The air grew colder. I could see my breath forming in small clouds. "Let's go," I said. Nobody argued. We left the records room, but the hallway seemed different, longer, stretched somehow. Every turn led us deeper into the asylum, even though we were sure we were retracing our steps. The fluorescent lights above flickered weakly, buzzing like dying insects. At one point, I looked over my shoulder and saw the wheelchair again, just behind us this time. Erica started crying quietly. Lucas muttered that we'd find another exit, that the building was probably just confusing because of the dark. But the deeper we went, the stranger things got. We passed doors labeled Ward C and Shock Therapy, each sealed shut with heavy locks. Yet faint whispers leaked through the cracks like voices from underwater, muffled, pleading. We finally found what looked like the main lobby. The front doors were chained, the windows boarded. In the center of the room stood a reception desk, and behind it, a shape. It was a man, or what was left of one. He wore a tattered hospital gown, his skin pale as wax. His head twitched slightly as if straining to listen. One hand rested on the counter, long fingers stained dark. The other clutched something. The ledger. He lifted it slowly, showing the open page, our names, and then dragged a pen down the list, scratching a final word beside each. Deceased. The flashlight sputtered again and died completely. In that instant of darkness, the air filled with the sound of wheels squealing across tile. Then came the screams. I don't remember how we got out. I woke up in the woods outside, soaked in sweat and dirt. Lucas and Erica were gone. Police found our cameras near the asylum's entrance 2 days later, footage corrupted beyond recovery, except for the last few seconds. It showed the records room, the ledger open on the desk, and a new entry written in clean black ink. Admitted, Officer Daniel Price, 10/11/25. They said the old nurse never left Saint Dymphna Asylum, not even after it shut down. Some locals swore you could still hear her shoes clicking down the halls, doing her nightly rounds for patients long gone. I didn't believe any of it until last spring, when I took the demolition contract. I'm a foreman, been in construction for nearly 20 years. I've torn down plenty of old buildings, hospitals, schools, even a prison once, but the asylum had a presence to it. It sat on a hill just outside town, swallowed by weeds and vines, its windows black as if it refused to let light in. From the moment we started work, strange things happened. My crew joked at first, tools going missing, the generator cutting out, but the jokes stopped on the third day. That morning we found a stack of papers on the hood of one of the trucks. Medical charts, real ones. Each was dated the same, March 4th, 1983. The handwriting was perfect, neat, slanted, unmistakably feminine. I asked who'd been inside the night before. Everyone swore they hadn't touched the building. Still, curiosity got the better of me. During lunch, I took a walk through the asylum alone. The hallways smelled like mildew and something faintly sweet, like old medicine. Dust hung in the air, turning the sunlight into ribbons. The walls were lined with faded murals of smiling nurses and patients, though most of the faces had peeled away with time. Room by room, I checked for squatters or vandals. But what I found was stranger. Every door had a clipboard hanging from it. Each chart was dated March 4th, 1983. Each listed a patient name, condition, and notes written in the same tidy hand. The ink wasn't faded. It looked fresh. When I reached Ward B, I saw movement in one of the rooms, just a flicker of white. I froze, listening. There was a soft humming coming from inside, an old tune, gentle, almost soothing. Against every bit of instinct, I stepped closer and peered through the cracked door. The room was empty. The sound stopped the instant I looked in. I backed out slowly, telling myself it was wind or acoustics, something simple. But as I turned to leave, I noticed a chart on the wall by the door. It wasn't dated 1983. It read March 4th, 2024. My name was at the top. Foreman, David Kell. That's when I felt the air shift. It got colder, sharp and clean like the scent of antiseptic. A shadow moved across the far wall, slow and deliberate, followed by the faint click of heels on tile. I didn't see her at first, just the shape of a nursing-mask cap and a glint of something metal in her hand. Then the light from my flashlight caught her face. She wasn't rotting or ghostly like you'd expect from a story like this. She looked alive, her skin pale, her expression calm, eyes hollow but focused. Her uniform was spotless, starched white with a small silver pin on her collar. I couldn't move. She simply looked at me, head tilted slightly, like she was assessing a patient. Then she spoke. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "You're not authorized to be here after rounds." The flashlight slipped from my hand. The moment it hit the floor, the room went dark and she was gone. I don't remember leaving the building. The next thing I knew, I was outside, sitting on the gravel, gasping like I'd run a mile. My crew found me there an hour later, pale and shaking. I told them it was the dust, that I'd gotten lightheaded inside, but I didn't go back in that day, or any day after. 2 weeks later, they brought in another team to finish the job. During demolition, the workers uncovered a sealed room behind Ward B. The door had been welded shut from the inside. When they broke it open, they found a single hospital bed, a desk, and a wall of filing cabinets. Every drawer was filled with fresh patient charts, each dated March 4th, 1983, and one sitting on the desk, newer than the rest, was labeled Foreman, David Kell. The handwriting was the same. They tore the building down that afternoon, but I swear, the air still smells like disinfectant when the wind blows from the north. And every year on March 4th, I find a new chart slipped under my door. Same name, same date, same signature. Nurse A. Holloway, head of Ward B. They say the worst kind of loneliness isn't T when you re-alone. It whereas when you know you aren't a T. When I took the job as night security at Saint Dymphna Asylum, I thought it'd be easy money. The place had been abandoned for decades, long after the last patients were relocated and the state shut it down. They were planning to renovate it into apartments, but until construction began, they needed someone to keep vandals and trespassers out. 12-hour shifts, midnight to noon, just me and a wall of monitors. The building was massive, a labyrinth of decaying halls, empty wards, and forgotten rooms. At night, it creaked and groaned like an old ship settling in its own bones. The air always smelled faintly of mildew and cleaning chemicals, and every sound, dripping water, fluttering paper, a loose vent cover, felt amplified in the silence. My post was in a small security office near the main entrance. The room was lit only by the green glow of the monitors, 10 feeds in total covering the halls, the lobby, the rec room, and the old patient courtyard. The cameras were ancient, black and white, and fuzzy, but they worked well enough. The first 2 nights were uneventful, just hours of static, dust, and darkness. But on the 3rd night, around 2:13 a.m., I noticed something strange. The rec room camera showed a figure sitting in one of the old chairs near the center of the room. At first I thought it was a trick of the light, shadows maybe. But when I leaned closer, I could make out the shape clearly. A person, sitting perfectly still. I froze. Nobody was supposed to be inside. I radioed the property manager, but there was no answer. It was late, and cell service in the building was spotty. So I grabbed my flashlight, unclipped my keys, and went to check. The walk there was unsettling. The halls were long, with broken glass crunching under my boots. The walls were lined with cracked tiles, and the sound of my footsteps echoed endlessly, as if someone else was walking right behind me. When I reached the rec room, the door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open slowly, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. The smell hit me first, old fabric, rust, and something faintly metallic. The chair was right where I'd seen it on the monitor, but it was empty, no one there, no footprints in the dust. I checked the rest of the room, nothing. But when I looked back at the chair, I noticed something that hadn't been there before. A small hospital bracelet lying on the seat. The name was smudged, but I could make out a few letters. Lydia. I took it back to the office, uneasy but trying to stay rational. Old junk surfaces in these places all the time, I told myself. Maybe I just missed it earlier. I tossed it on the desk and went back to watching the monitors. At exactly 2:13 a.m. the next night, the same thing happened. The figure appeared again. Same chair, same posture. I leaned closer. She was sitting upright, her head tilted slightly, hands in her lap. This time I could see her face, or what was left of it. Pale, hollow eyes staring straight ahead. I didn't go to the rec room that night. I just watched. Around 2:17, the feed glitched. Static, distortion, and when it cleared, the chair was empty again. The next morning I told the site manager, a guy named Ross, what I'd seen. He laughed it off. Probably the camera picking up old feedback or interference, he said. Ghosts don't clock in at 2 a.m. as kid. But that night I started recording the feeds on my phone. I wanted proof. And at 2:13 a.m. sharp, there she was again. The same woman, same chair. Only this time, she moved. Her head turned slowly toward the camera, and she smiled. The lights in the office flickered, and for just a second I swore I heard something behind me. Soft footsteps in the hall. I spun around, but no one was there. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. When I looked back at the monitor, the rec room was empty again. I left the building at dawn and didn't come back for 2 days. Ross said if I missed another shift, I was fired. Against every instinct, I went back. When I got there, the office door was open. On the monitors, every single camera feed showed the same thing. The rec room. 10 angles of that same chair. Empty at first. Then, one by one, each feed flickered, and she appeared. On all 10 screens. closer each time. The last feed showed her right in front of the camera, her face filling the frame, eyes staring straight into mine. The footage cut to black. That's when the lights went out. The generator died. I heard the sound of wheels, like an old hospital gurney, squeaking down the hall toward me. I grabbed my flashlight, but before I could switch it on, I felt it. Cold fingers brushed the back of my neck. I quit that night. Haven't gone near Saint Dymphna since. But sometimes, when I'm scrolling through my phone in the dark, I'll see the old recording I took, the one of her turning toward the camera. No matter how many times I delete it, it always comes back. And the strange thing is, each time she's sitting just a little bit closer,